Good morning. Welcome to the Blue Gamer Bluecast Morning Show. I'm your host, Adam Blue 30 Plus, your video game enthusiast and industry analyst. Today is December 20th, 2024. The release of Sonic 3 in movies has happened. I got to see it last night. The theaters around here were having early showings, so I saw it with the family. And, I'm a big Sonic fan. And I brought it up before, while I played NES and Atari, it wasn't until the Sega Genesis and Sonic that I really sort of identified myself as loving video games. And it was just because with the graphics of the Sega Genesis, with the experience of the speed of Sonic and that character, I felt more connected into a world and experience. And so since then, that's what attracts me to video games a lot, when there's a lot going on. It's just crazy back in the day, when any new Sonic game come out. I remember waiting for Sonic 2 and then seeing it at the mall, this mall nearby, Irving Mall. I remember the store exactly where they had the TV displayed showing it, and I was like, oh, I cannot wait for this game. Man, and then since then, playing every Sonic game up until Sonic Heroes. That's right. After Sonic Adventure 2, I remember when they announced Sonic Heroes, and then there was Sonic 06. And it just, from there, it just kind of died for me. But I still played the old games a lot. And in fact, Sonic 4, even though that didn't turn out the way I wanted to. And there's some things like Sonic Unleashed, I think was pretty good. I played more of Sonic Forces since then. And, got a weird phone call, don't know what that is. Sonic Forces, my youngest was a couple years ago playing that a lot, and I was playing it too. I was like, okay, this actually isn't too bad. Sonic Frontiers is okay. Sonic Generations, I think, has been the best, and I think that's why they brought it back. And with Shadow, it's got the best graphics, the best level design. It looks like a high production. And high production for Sonic is important because Sonic Superstars, which came out last year at the same time Mario Wonder, just didn't do it for me. I know what they were trying to go for, but they were cutting corners. And I think that's a big deal with Sonic and high production, because now moving on to the Sonic 3 movie review. So I'm going to do a review of the Sonic 3 movie, but I won't get into spoilers. There's not really much to spoil, I guess, more of like surprising things that happen. But I'll do that after. I'll do a review of Sonic 3, talk about news, gaming news, and then I'll get into the spoilers at the end. I'll say, hey, okay, guys, I'm going to do spoilers, so that's it for this episode, and whatever. The Sonic 3 movie is better than the first two, even though I think the first two are good movies. Like, they're fun. It's non-offensive, even though it's doing things that don't make sense to me for Sonic, but it's like I'm still able to go with it. But this Sonic 3 movie was the best out of all of them. And a lot of that had to do with it really just focused on the Sonic characters and Robotnik. The other human actors do show up, but not that much. So it's really just the Sonic characters. So there's a lot of cool CGI, it's obviously CGI, but it's also not done bad. It's done very well. I think what really helps this really work is, and I don't know why sometimes we don't see this with some movies and why we do with others, but it's a competently made production from beginning to end. This has to do with acting, even with being comedic acting, like there's some lines which are just kind of cheesy, but they're delivered really well. Even with the, what's that guy's name? Tom, but his real name, Marsden is coming to Cyclops. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. That guy does really good with comedy in a way where it's like the subtle timing. The acting, even the jokes, Sonic's jokes were all the time, and they were funny. There was even references that I'm like, okay, kids wouldn't understand that, or even non-in-the-know adults wouldn't understand that. And I'm talking about not things related to Sonic, but outside that. There was even a call out to Godzilla at one point, and I was like, okay, that's gelling me right now since I'm getting into Godzilla. But the editing, the pacing, every character, as small as they were, every character had an arc. Like, this was so competently made. And what really helped too was the editing. I think the editing is a big deal because as it's being edited, or as I'm watching it in the editing, there's not a time where it seemed like, okay, they had to rush this in or add this in. You know, I saw Craven the Hunter recently. They did a thing where you could tell a scene was two actors acting that weren't in the same room, and they had to do CGI on their mouths to make them say different things. It was really cringy. There's none of that in this. And I think that's what really helps sell the film at the end of the day is, you know, again, I'm big into filmmaking, and I really appreciate that they were respectful to that craft. I will say there's probably two scenes specifically with human characters that I could tell that there was more dialogue, and they just cut it just because of the positioning and slight reaction of that actor after some dialogue. And it's like, oh, okay, they were probably doing more jokes here. Because there were some times where some jokes lingered longer than they needed to, but it was fine because it was funny. But I could tell, oh, okay, I bet there's a lot of this going on when they were filming, where there was a lot of improv joking around, you know, extending it. And when it comes to the Sonic mythos, and again, I'm not going to get into those details until the end of this, but a lot of, callbacks from Sonic Adventure 2. It played the music that I never thought I'd hear. You know, the stuff that when those games came out, I had the CD soundtracks. Amazing music, and it has it in this. What were some other? Yeah, just a lot of, you know, they had the Chow Garden. They showed that in the trailers, and they kind of expand a little bit on it and kind of explain it a little bit, but enough to make it where, okay, I could see that being a thing in this reality compared to how it was a offshoot gameplay mechanic in the Adventure series. You know, there's a couple things. One, I'm surprised that they make this film so well, considering other big studios coming out with films that are just pretty poor. But it's like, how do you do Sonic the Hedgehog live action so well when you could do something as simple as a comic book movie so poor? It's mind-boggling. I don't know. You know, and this is Paramount, and I think Paramount is just known for making good movies. And I don't know if it's just they have a good balance when it comes to executives that are, you know, not getting too into the weeds with the director, but just enough to be like, yeah, you should probably at least do this or at least do that. So great editing, which to me is a big deal about, which kind of goes into the pacing if it's structured that way. The editing's a big deal. The acting, the comedy is well done. The action, tons of CGI hedgehog action, reminiscent of the stuff you would see in the games. I mean, I recommend watching it. I can't wait to talk more spoilers with others. So then, I'm going to move into some game news, but I would say at about 25 after, right before I close the show, I'm going to talk about a few of the spoilers, and I'll give a warning of what I enjoyed from that. So, let's jump into news now. So, that's moving on from saying, thumbs up to Sonic 3. Is it the best movie I've seen this year, maybe? Just because of how competently made it was? Maybe. But real quick, we'll look at what I've been playing. All I played yesterday, and it wasn't too long, I just played a little bit of Godzilla on PS3. This is, because I'm doing it in the emulator, I have to upload the file to show my current progress. So I haven't uploaded it because I didn't really get any achievements yet, but I'm just kind of going through the grind of, going through, beating it, getting the other figures and the figurines for the diorama, the evolution parts to evolve him, all that. Kind of busy with work and then other, going to the movie and all that. And I'm trying to think this weekend, because it's Friday. What am I going to play this weekend? I might play more Rita's Rewind just to play through the levels again with the patch with the Green Ranger. Try to get the additional challenges for each level. There's 3 challenges on each level. One is not dying. That's pretty hard because it's a hard game. I want to beat the Astrobot Christmas level, which won't take me too much longer to do. And also, I want to remind myself to get into VR and play Batman and play Starship Troopers because the Alien game came out and, kind of behind on that. So, and then also I'll probably want to play some more Sonic X Shattered Generations because I'd like to give it more time than just the 2 hours. I mean, it's fun, but it's not it's not grabbing me like a Godzilla is. Just because as I'm playing Godzilla, there's more things to do. Although the Sonic game just has a lot to do. Like through a level, there's a little secret stuff to get. So, there's all that. Yeah, so let me know in the comments what you are going to be playing this weekend. Oh, yeah, and then Indiana Jones. I want to beat that. I'm surprised I put that much time into it. Because it's fun. It's just there's nothing to it. I was talking to my brother about it yesterday. I asked him, does the combat get any better, even though it's okay? And he's like, not really, because it's not made for that. Again, there's this one area where I had alerted, I guess, the area, so then they were having guards come search for me, and they were one at a time coming to me, and I was just beating them all up, and a pile of 8 guys just laying there. And then I remember there's even the non-combative NPCs in the area that they're scared at first, and then they just go back to work, while there's like 8 guys just laying around dead or knocked out. I don't know. So I guess that's some of the stuff that takes me out of it. It's like the combat is super basic, but then why have it seem really over the top when it doesn't need to be, I guess. I don't know. Okay, I think that's it for what I've been playing, what I plan to play since it's Friday and it's the weekend. Let's go to some game news. So there was the Indie Game Awards presented by 6-1 Indie. I don't know any of this. I don't know what makes this a thing, but it's a thing. Again, like I don't know who runs it. I don't know what 6-1 Indie is. But let's see what indie games. Let's see, Balatro won, which I don't know if that's just because it's popular. Because look, Balatro is a fun game, but it's more of an addictive style game. I don't know how to explain it, and I hope that's not, talking down to it, because again, it is a great game. But like, I don't play Balatro to play a video game. I would play Balatro to play a hand of this sort of poker-esque roguelike. You know what I mean? It's very weird, but it's just an electronic version of a card game. I don't know how else to put it. It's like you could play it. I guess it has all these little... Like, you could play it without a video game. If you had the cards, all those decks that were made, and then... all the random little attributes that you can get along the way. If that was just some random thing where you're picking up, you're like, okay, I've got this. Like, and I'm not trying to talk down because it's fun, but to me, it's like solitaire winning. It's like, well, it's a video form of something that you could just be doing anyway. Like, they're not going to give, what is it, soccer or the FC game of the year. It might be fun, it might be cool, but it really just is soccer in electronic form, I guess. But even less to a degree, because with the card games, it's just literally the card, Never heard of this 1000X Resist. Never heard of this, but that looks like Bayonetta. Okay. I'm liking... Okay, there's dialogue. Walking around a lot. Where's the combat?
Heki Almo to 1.
Let's
Each
see.
sister's function to be...
Interesting that
Mother
this... I've never heard of
Fear to
this.
square. Each shape and feel her pain.
It seems to
Fire.
be... Yeah, thriller, female... Well, I mean, why is that... Why does that matter? Cinematics... Yeah, this doesn't seem to be an action game, so I might end up skipping that. No shade to that. That's not something that could be done in real life. That can only be done in video form, so, Animal Well... that's pretty cool, but it wasn't too big of a deal for me. Let's look at what this Arco is. Let's see, turn-based strategy. Okay, I'm not always into that, but depending on what's going on. Oh, this looks like those, like, whatever that Western game was. Interesting. And it has a demo. Okay, I keep thinking every time let's see. Okay, so it seems to do it like that Aliens game that came out that I really want to play, where it looks like there's real-time movement, but then when you're choosing your actions, it like slows down so you could do the action. That looks really neat, actually. Let me add that to wish list just so I can get back to it later. Crypt Custodian, that's an awesome name. And it's a cat. Okay. Let's see, this Metroidvania. Okay, you've got me, although I don't like cutesy Metroidvanias, but this looks like it's more of a top-down, isometrically played game. Let's see. Okay. Ooh. Oh my gosh, that map looks insane. The world is weird. I'm not art style wise, I'm not too much into the disjointed world that doesn't that it almost pulls me out. Like when we were looking at that map a second ago, like yeah, even it's like Toe Jam and Earl, right? Where Toe Jam and Earl kind of had a story reason like this where you're just on specific little areas, and then I think it's gonna the map, you know. Sometimes that takes me out of a game, and then it's almost like I feel like I'm playing a game, if that makes sense. Let's see what else. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, yeah, heard of that. Mouthwashing, heard of that. Neva, Nine Souls, UFO 50. I mean, these are all great games, but I don't... Interesting. It's almost like, at the end of the day... Okay, Little Kitty Big City, that was actually pretty good. I don't know if it's just... How do I explain this? I feel like this year we're still feeling the remnants of COVID either delaying or messing up games that were in development that were supposed to come out maybe even last year, that have come out this year. I don't know, I feel like there's just been like a lot of the indie games coming out are more of just, or they're just like other games. If that makes sense. I mean, even Balatro is really just like poker, solitaire, however you want. Mouthwashing, this is a more recent one that I really haven't gotten too much into, and I really like the graphics. And, but, psychological horror, story rich, that's usually not my sort of thing, but I think what happened is when Sony doubled down on kind of the narrative-driven sort of games, I think a lot of that probably inspired a different set of game developers to make indie games that are also very story driven. So a lot of these indie games that have been coming out lately have been more narrative focused, story driven. Not my bag. I'm looking for games to come out that are like new, interesting mechanics to gaming. We've had a lot of survival likes come out. We've had a lot of Metroidvanias come out. And a lot of times it's like, oh, let's just make a Metroidvania, and not like, oh, let's make an awesome game that would just happen to also be a Metroidvania. You know what I mean? And the UFO 50, I think, is the most interesting. I haven't played it, and I would like to. The idea of this is that there's like 50 games that are like old school games. And the reason I think this is cool is because this is cool because at 50 different games that are fun, because a lot of time nowadays, if you go back to play like an old school game, especially like on the Atari or NES, they're very simple. You can kind of beat them once you figure out what to do pretty quick. So it makes sense that there would be a game that's 50 of them to give you more to do like a modern game. That's on my wish list. Yeah, I've been meaning to pick it up. So I think I would like this, but it's not like each individual game itself is something unique or interesting. I mean, it probably is, but I just mean in terms of like, wow, we should make that its own game. I think they're made to just be their own little thing. So, although it would be really cool if one of the games from here becomes really popular and they decide to expand on it, kind of like the Quentin Tarantino, what was that? The Grindhouse trailers, the fake trailers, and then like Machete and Thanksgiving became movies. That was pretty cool. Okay, this is interesting. I don't know too much about this. Tencent directors stepped down from Epic Games board after U.S. Justice Department expressed concerns. Law states directors should not serve on the boards of competing companies such as Epic and Riot. Two Tencent directors have left Epic Games' board of directors after the U.S. Justice Department expressed concerns about their positions. In a statement posted on the U.S. Justice Department's website, the report said the department believed the appointment on both the Epic and Tencent boards violated Section 8 of the Clayton Act, an antitrust law that seeks to protect consumers from practices that could be harmful. The law states that directors and officers should not serve simultaneously on the boards of competing companies such as Epic and Riot. Consequently, Tencent has amended its shareholder agreement with Epic to relinquish its unilateral right to appoint directors or observers on the latter's board, given its own minority stake in Epic, whilst also being the parent company of Epic competitor Riot Games. Scrutiny around interlocking directories, am I saying that right? Directorates. Okay, that's a new one for me. It continues to be an enforcement priority for the antitrust division. Oh, okay. Interesting. So it's an antitrust division that kind of brought this to light. That's actually good that that stuff kind of exists. It's kind of like watches the watchers, isn't that a thing? The watchman who watches the watchman. Isn't that from something? Yeah. Said the department's deputy director of civil enforcement, Miriam R. Vicio. Due to the hard work of our tremendous staff, our increased enforcement around Section 8 over the last few years has achieved substantial results and become part of our fabric. I guess that's kind of neat, unless there's something more nefarious happening under the, underneath that we don't know about. I think it's kind of good in this case because I know some people have issue with Tencent because of the Chinese stuff, but I almost feel like who watches Watchmen? Okay, that is it. Hey, Stephen, good to see you. I do think sometimes I think it's kind of a propaganda sometimes where China is being talked bad about. I've, in the past year, come across a lot of Chinese YouTubers that are really cool and they just seem like the normal person, and it makes you think, well, the government is probably what then the propaganda is about, and just like the U.S. does things that then other countries make propaganda about. So I like to make it where it's more, there's billions and billions of people in China, and they're probably just regular, cool people like us that have hobbies, go to work, do their thing, and it's not their fault that their government's the way it is. Yeah. So, okay, here's something that's cool. Slitterhead has a demo. I wish they did this at first. I wonder if the idea was hype the game, see how many people buy it, and then at a certain point in the sales drop, sale and demo. I was going to hit download, but I didn't want to download while I was streaming, but I will be doing this later. I don't know if it's today or this weekend. I want to try this out. Very positive reviews. So, okay, here's something that looks really cool that I never heard of, except it was just a news thing about 100,000 sales, which I don't know if that's good. Sometimes companies say, oh, we didn't make 1 million sales, we failed. But anyway, this is a action samurai game. Never heard of it until now. It came out in 2022. It's got mixed reviews, but I mean, just looking at it, like, it could be maybe the combat and controls get a little simple, but and it kind of has that Dynasty Warrior sort of feel to it. It seems pretty cool. Anyway, let me add wish list. It's on sale too. Normally $59, it's $26, and then I guess something with all the DLC. Again, they need demos because I want to see what the combat system is like in all of these, And then D3 Publisher, if you want to get a cool Japanese import, that's what you do there. I wonder if Slitterhead does anything new with the horror genre. Yeah, from what I understand, something new, because honestly, it looks like it's more of an amalgamation of different mechanics, because it's like where you jump into other bodies to fight. And then like you have to jump into another body to fight. So GB4 had about 131 sales in the first month, so that's something. 131,000. Well, yeah, but I would think it would be more. I don't know if I think that just says more about Gundam, really. And then bring back demos. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad there's some. But kind of staying on the same trajectory as these female-centric games is Venus Vacation, Dead or Alive Extreme, which looks great. You can't deny this looks great. Okay, here's the interesting thing. So we know what this game is made for, right? And they even call it's like an immersive romantic adventure. What's interesting is it is not going to be released in the US. And you wonder why. And it could be because it would be censored and they're just not even bothering with the US. It's very interesting. The Asian version will have English. But I just think it's very interesting that we still have games not getting released in all other regions, you know. And if you look at this game, why wouldn't it get released? It's like, well, it's doing things that have been kind of a talking point, especially on social media, where it's like, you know, seeing girls oogling at them because, you know, their boobies are hanging out or something. I don't know. You know, I feel like companies shouldn't have to worry about where they're releasing games because then they might get censored. So it's too bad, although it's still possible to get this, you know, so. All right, well, I'm going to end here with what I promised, and that's going to be spoilers for the Sonic 3 movie. So, Steven, I know you haven't seen it yet. You might not care, but just for those interested in the spoilers, the coolest thing, there's a lot of cool things. They played Live and Learn, like, right at the beginning of the movie, like on a string guitar. There was like a memory Shadow was having, and it was cool to hear that. And then at the end of the movie, there is Super Sonic and Super Shadow, and they were playing Live and Learn, the guitar, and then it went into the orchestrated. I feel like they could have done more video game-like music in this, but they really focused it more on the orchestrated score, which actually was very well done, so I can't knock it for that. When we see, Robotnik and his grandfather, I guess that's not too much of a spoiler because that's part of it. Because again, there's not really too much to spoil. I guess what it is then the end credits stuff. So I'll talk about that. There was a couple end credits, right? Okay, there was one where Sonic was doing a race that was part of the main movie, like with his friends, you know, and then he ends up going too far somewhere, and then it's something shows up behind him, and it's Metal Sonic from Sonic CD. I thought that was pretty cool. I know there's Mecha Sonic, or I think it's Robo Sonic, I forget, from Sonic 2, but this was the Sonic CD Mecha Sonic, and then there was a bunch of them, and then someone comes, destroys them all, and you're like, who could this be? And you wouldn't think it would be until you see that it's a hammer destroying them all. And it's Amy Rose. They show Amy Rose at the end. It's pretty cool. It didn't exactly look like her, and I think they're also making her, because when they introduced her in Sonic CD, she's just in love with Sonic, running after him. And, you know, and there wasn't much more than that. So they're trying to make Amy Rose more of the heroine, you know, which is, it's fine, you know. And then the post-credits scene wasn't much, actually. In fact, I don't think they needed to do it. It was just showing Shadow's foot, Shadow's shoe, to show that Shadow didn't die, which I didn't think he died anyway, even though at the end, when he stops the thing, there's a big explosion. I think nowadays it's really hard in movies, especially how they do the build-up, and if it's a well-known character, to be like, oh yeah, they died, when it's like, well, probably not. So, same treatment Peach got in the Mario movie. Yeah, kind of the same thing, where they completely change it, which, you know, I don't know what to think about that, because on one hand, maybe it gives more substance for maybe a female that identifies, like a girl that identifies with the character, to have more substance for what they can imagine that they could be doing. But at the same time, it's, you know, part of the story, you know, and so, you know, I don't know. I like Sonic Prime to be cool to go that route in the movies. Yeah, you know what? I like that too. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I was watching, I forget how many episodes with my youngest. I was like, this is actually pretty good. And it is interesting because most Sonic stories happen to be like different universes or whatever, so. But anyway, I saved the spoilers to the end of this episode, and I guess it's really not too much to spoil, but I just wanted to do that so I'd make you watch the whole thing. No, I'm joking. Sonic 3 is a good movie. It's better than the first two by far because they don't focus on the humans, and I think that's great. They're just kind of side characters supporting side characters, and I think it helps break up to seeing CGI, slop the whole time. So I recommend the movie. So guys, I'm gonna go head out. Hope you guys have a good weekend. I'll be back Monday And yeah, we'll go from there. So we'll see y'all later. Have a good one.